powerful presentation today. We're going to be discussing the 25th dynasty of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, discussing the black pharaohs. Now, I really don't like using that term, the black pharaohs. You see, because they relate this to the 25th dynasty, which, is a Sudanese dynasty. This presupposes that, the earlier dynasties wasn't black. You see, and that's not true. Okay, now the 25th dynasty ushers in the fourth golden age of ancient Kemet. Okay, we're talking about right, after Ramesses the third, which is the 20th dynasty. He's the last great Pharaoh. You see, after the 18th dynasty, after Ramesses II, after Seti the first, the last great Pharaoh was Ramesses III. And in between that, after that, the Libyans took over. And so Egypt was no longer unified after that point. It was sporadic rule. You had the Libyans ruling in lower Kemet. You had the priest of Amen ruling in upper Kemet. And so Egypt was raggedy. You see, yeah, Egypt was raggedy. And so here comes a great power from the south. This great power coming up out of Sudan, coming up out of Nubia, the great king Pianki. You see, Paye, you see, who comes up out of Nubia and reunifies Egypt. He reunifies Egypt. Now, the 25th dynasty was from 744 to 656 BC. So they ruled for about a little bit over 100 years. And so again, Pianki reunified Egypt, and for the first time. Now this is an empire, okay? This is empire because now Nubia and Egypt are unified. So these are these are pharaohs, but this is an empire because he's ruling from Napata. Now Napata is a sacred city of the great god Amen. You see, which was ruled. You have Karnak, which is the great city of Amen, and then you have Napata, which is also the great city of Amen. So when Pianki come into Egypt, it was about religious revival, okay? Reestablishing the ceremonies, reestablishing the rituals, okay? Also, monumental building in the name of the great God, Amen. You see, when the 25th dynasty comes in, they replenish the temples. You see, they replenish the temples. They build on to the temples. Okay? And so the temples were restored and beautified. Okay? And restoration of Ma'at, cosmic order. Now, when you see the Nubians come in, you can see they're very religious. They're about Amen. You see, when you look at when the Greeks and the Romans and the Persian come in, they come in they come to move away the African traditions and bring in their own traditions. When the Greeks come in, they want to bring in Serapis and all these European deities. But when the 25th dynasty, the Nubians come in, they are reestablishing Egyptian customs. They didn't come in because many of the customs of Egypt were also the customs of the Nubians. And what's clear, they reestablished pyramid building. See, they trying to make that, and they're very connected to the old kingdom traditions. See, they're continuing really what Ramesses the third and because Ramesses the third, he was the last great king. You know, after Ramesses the second, Ramesses the third defeated the Sea Peoples. He defended Egypt from collapse. He built he built many major temples, Menehat Habu, but he was the last great king. And so you talking about you talking about 200 years between Ramesses the third and Pianki. You talking about close to 200 or 300 years. You see where there was Egypt was fragmented. You see it was fragmented, and here these Nubian brothers come up from the south and bring prosperity to Egypt. You see, brought prosperity. And there was a lot of building on a monumental level, even at Karnak, where Taarka he builds this a temple inside of what they call a kiosk, which kiosk is a temple, but there's no sides, there's no walls, it's just columns in the roof. And so they would have ceremonies in the, if you come into Karnak and you come into the ceremonial courtyard, you will have Taarka's kiosk. And what is a kiosk? You can perform rituals and ceremonies in the open. It's a temple without walls. You just got the columns and you got a roof. So when the people see you bring the ark out, the Ark of Amen, the Ark of Mut, is open for the public or the priest to see the actual ceremony. So Taarka built the greatest and largest kiosk in Kemetic history. You see right there in that temple. And he had, he established, he built large columns. I believe they were papyrus columns that he builds in the courtyard. And so he beautified the Karnak and many other temples. I believe even in Memphis, deep down in Lower Egypt, he establishes, as a matter of fact, all the 25th dynasty went into Memphis, went into Karnak, believe Heliopolis, and all of these cities, and replenishes the temples. And so this was a golden age. This was also empire. And at that time, Napata, which is the capital of Sudan, was the capital of Egypt. Okay, and this is where the Pharaohs of the 25th dynasty were crowned. They were crowned in Napata. And so Napata was established during the time of Tutmosis III, but that city in Sudan was sacred to Amen. And you have that mountain there, Jebel Barkal, which is said to be the mountain of Amen. And you can see right in front of that mountain, it looks like a uraeus a uraeus, a serpent in front of it. So it's similar to the crown of the Nubians, you see, and where they had that little, serpent right in front of their crown. And so they say that is the seat of Amen. And so even Egyptians were coming up out of Egypt to come to Napata, you see, to venerate Amen and to make pilgrimages to Napata, into Sudan. But this was the last great age of Egypt, where it was traditional Egyptian ceremonies and rituals and deities being venerated. The replenishing of the temples. Not only that, the replenishing of the ceremonies and rituals. And so again, they were reconnecting to the old kingdom, because it was even like when Seti, he went back to Seti. He went back to the older tradition because they had lost. They had removed themselves from the older traditions. And so you can see with Seti, Ramesses II, Ramesses III, they were trying to reconnect to the older traditions which they had lost. So the 25th dynasty of Kemet, 744 to 656 BC, was the last golden age of ancient Egypt. It was the last golden age of ancient Egypt. And when that dynasty, when that dynasty was over, truly, that was the end of ancient Egypt. I appreciate y'all being here, family. Make sure you comment, get a video a thumbs up, and we got more coming. See you in a minute. Black Pop.